Yeah, go ahead. God, we thank you for this day, for the time and fellowship and food around the table. Thank you for those who prepared it. As always, we ask your blessing on our efforts to serve. We have things going on in our own lives, and so we pray for each other, asking that you meet our needs and get us through the various trials we face. But more than that, take us beyond ourselves, to think of the needs of others always, to reach out and do good in the world. We pray that you enable us to do that more and more each day. And I pray this in Christ's name.
Amen. Jesus, please, right?
And salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Have a seat. So, visiting Rotarians. Don't see any guests. Nice to see you, Steve. Guests? Reagan? Yeah, you're kind of caught in limbo here, so why don't you stand up and tell us what's going on?
Okay, thank you. Well, good afternoon. Thanks for being here and having me here today. Still visiting as a guest. I think that we were planning on inducting me sometime either last week or this week, but I've got some great news in the form of celebration. I've been offered an opportunity to become a member of a team up in Ashland, Oregon. And so after much deliberation and some passings of different ideas and thoughts, I've decided to take on that opportunity and that challenge. I'm moving up to Ashland if I can at the end of this month. We're kind of just searching for housing at this point. It's a Ashland Food Cooperative, which is kind of like an organic based grocery store, which I'll be the prepared foods manager and executive chef, running of a team of about 50 or so individuals, and very excited about that. So I just wanted to thank you guys for the opportunity, the fellowship that I've had with you over the past couple of months, and I continue to be involved as much as I can here in Lemoore. I've still got 3 great children and quite a bit of family here in the community, so I expect that I'll be back and returning, and every time that I do, I hope that I'm able to see you and contribute in whatever way that I can.
Great.
Congratulations.
Sounds like a great opportunity. And rather than process Reagan through our club and then put in transfer and all the paperwork, my suggestion to Reagan was get involved with the Rotary up there, and then when he comes back to see his kids, he'll be dropping in as a visiting Rotarian. So we'd like to see him at that point. Tetchy, want to stand?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to be here, but also I just want to let you guys know that I am asking for community help because the theater is not doing very well. So I would like to have, if anybody has any idea, to try to help us in any way we can as a community. This is our theater, not just my family. So I am telling you the truth where we are at. I would like to stay here, but I don't know if I can sustain it anymore. So, thank you.
Thank you, Tetchy. James?
James, we're Governor Margalo over at the Thatcher Palace. We've been coming for a while. Hope to be a regular. So.
All right, and Rodney, good to see you there. All right, we're all the way around. Good. Okay, let's talk a little bit about celebrations. I know that Reagan said he wants to celebrate. I'm going to hold you to that.
All right.
So, what are you going to do?
Well, what do I need to do?
Are you ponying up some funds for the foundation? All right, get yourself on the board.
All right.
All right.
I'm not sure where this goes.
Yeah,
But,
Rob will come around.
All right.
But congratulations, you got friends here. Stop in, whether you're visiting Rotarian or just visiting. Okay?
I
Come on
appreciate
back.
that. I certainly will. And I just wanted to, just to be clear, celebrate obviously the great opportunity that I've got. And I also wanted to share with everybody here that over the course where we were dark over the holidays, I was able to work with Thomas and Justin, who came in for the Lemoore holiday dinner, which is now in its 11th year. Next year will be the 12th year, and we had just a tremendous success. Being able to work with the Rotary prior to that and doing the ball tip, I picked up a few good pointers, and so we were able to do that again. We did the ball tip, got a great price from Harris Ranch Beef Company, who gave us a great deal on that, and so we did the ball tip. Took a few notes from John's book, and what we actually did is we grilled it the day before, cooled it off, and we sliced it the next morning. It was still pretty medium rare, and it held up very well on the slicer because it was cool, and then we reheated it in the pans. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to work with you guys, and I really thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. And that'll close out that sheet. So we're going to be doing a drawing on that sheet. Any other celebrations to start the new sheet? Anybody have anything they want to celebrate? Okay, Ron, you got some cards? David's got the cards. All right, David, I'll let you run this. We're going to go for two $500 winners.
We do two drawings, right? So first deck of cards, it's ace through 10. Ace represents 1. The other numbers are self-explanatory. That'll be the, let's do rows and then columns. So this is going to dictate the rows. So well here, no, I need to have to pick a card. I'm not thinking what I'm doing. Okay. You pick a card out of there. Hold on to it.
Okay.
And what's that?
I hope not. Don't tell myself.
That's going to be the columns. So what's the row?
Row 4.
Row 4, Rob.
Column? 6. Row 4,
Row 4,
column
column
6.
6. Who's the winner on that square?
Ivy.
Ivy? All right. Good.
Yeah.
Ivy, $500 towards her Paul Harris, which is great. All right, let's do one more.
All right. All right, let's see. We're going to do the same thing being rows and then columns. First, do the row, hold on to it. And then James, do the column. So what's the row? 2. 2, column.
Row 2,
9.
column 9. Row 2, column 9, Rob.
Has to be legible for you.
Oh, hell, I don't know.
It says Jesus Garcia.
And I'll pass the sheet around, let everybody look at it and see if they recognize it. I don't know what it
Yes,
is.
it looks like a W. Tom sign with just a W? No, the one above it.
Wait.
That's you? First one to look at is claiming it. Steve. That's the 4-way test. Is that the 4-way test? Oh, yeah, it's mine. Yeah, right.
All right.
All right.
I never went. I was late that day. Just put Steve W. and just.
All right, four-way test. We're all looking at you. Okay, some announcements. Let's talk a little bit about Hanford Crab Feed is Saturday the 1st. Do we have a show of hands of people that are anticipating going over and being with Hanford? John, you going to be a +1 or by yourself? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, let's do a table. Okay?
I'll let you know today.
All right, and then I'll get over to John and pick up my tickets.
Okay, we have it.
Okay, that'll work. Okay, that'll work. Okay, so I'll get that taken care of. A couple other things. Board meeting, guys. Hopefully, we have a quorum and leadership on Thursday, 5 o'clock at Buzz's B&D Cleaners. Okay, show up 5 o'clock. We'll have some food there for you. We've got a lot of stuff to cover, and then of course one member to vote on, James. Good luck. I'm sure it'll be fine. Yeah, it's all good. I've already got your shirt made, your apron made, and all that stuff, so I know how the board feels about you. So you'll be a good asset to the board. So we do have some things to take care of there to get in preparation for the district conference coming up. Taking a look at our financials and where we're at. So please, Thursday, 5 o'clock buzz. And Saturday, we have the bed build, okay? Remember, we're paying it forward, right? We did another 7 beds over the weekend, right? So this thing is really taken off and has a life of its own right here in our community. So we're approaching 50 beds already for kids that were sleeping on the floor, which is remarkable. But we need to rebuild those beds, okay? We need to pay it forward. So please, I hope we have a good turnout. I've got a bus showing up over here that'll take 22 people, okay? We're gonna meet at the Arbor at 9 o'clock Saturday morning. Just pile on the bus, we'll truck over to Visalia, 3 hours max, okay? They say we're done by 1, we'll get back on the bus and head on back. So make kind of a show of hands how many people plan to be there for the bed build. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we're gonna be good with those that are missing, and I'll send out an email to remind them. You going to church or you building?
Yeah, I got it. I'd like to move it.
Yeah. It's okay.
Michael?
Yes.
That Facebook notice that Dave put out is going $525 of private donations for the building bed. So in addition to started out $25, another $25, and now it's $525. And it's just amazing.
Have good friends.
Yes, you do have good friends. So, in case you couldn't hear Ron, he was saying another $520 came in from private donations earmarked to build more beds. Okay, so with that, we pass it, we write the check, we pass it right on through to the build project. We don't pocket any of that money, it all goes on. So we had our original grant of $1,500. The requirement was we put $1,000 of our own money with that grant. So it was going to be $2,500, going to build 16 beds. That was the plan. And then since then, we took in another $2,500 from Tachi Palace. We've taken in another $525 for cash. We're up to almost 50 beds now. So again, it's taken on kind of a life of its own. So Saturday, though, it's very important that we do that. Dave will be there and take some video and get that all taken care of. And I imagine we'll be showing some of this at district conference. I'll talk to you a little bit next board meeting and whenever about our district conference coming up and the requirements for that. So we have the district conference is on Saturday the 25th. They're going to do a cocktail party, they think, on Friday. We're kind of fortunate we don't have to rent rooms and do all that, but you come on out and join the cocktail party. The House of Friendship will be through the lobby area. There are going to be 22 different sections of House of Friendship. They've asked formally, they sent a letter to me and asked if our club would be the host club, by which we would help direct people, be there to receive them when they show up at property. So we'll set a timeline from Friday, and we'll get a sign-up sheet of who all there, and maybe by the hour or something, we can go 2s and 3s. But just basically welcome them when they pull into the porte cochere, help guide them to the registration desk, front desk, those kinds of things, welcome them. And then they asked me to do the opening greeting for the conference to get everybody in the dinner or breakfast. So I think it's going to be a great conference. Everybody that went last time just talked it up and had a great time, had a great showing. There's going to be a lot of things to do. Of course, there's so much opportunity out there for extracurricular that there's something for everybody, okay? And I believe that they're even going to have the Tachi youth in full regalia do some performing inside some of the halls and that as we get seated and that. So it should be pretty exciting stuff. We have Ceremony Museum. We're obligated and we have some things going on. Yeah?
Yeah, so I put a flyer in front of Rotary City. Their fundraiser, our fundraiser, I should say, is a dinner at evening in Venice. It's Saturday, March 14th, if you can save that date. I know at this point, they are asking us to help with set up and decorating and take down when it's over. They're asking if we would help them sell tickets because there's only 8 of us on the board, and so it's hard for us to sell a lot of tickets. We're doing this in partnership with Rotary Foundation, and they are asking us to help with setting up and decorating. And take down when it's over. They're asking if we would help them sell tickets because there's only 8 of us on the board, and so it's hard for us to sell a lot of tickets. of some museum antiques. Ruby Solis is going to be playing the saxophone, and there's a really good accordion player who plays at an Italian restaurant in Clovis, who's going to be walking around playing Italian music. So, this is going to be an annual fundraiser for us, hopefully. We've talked about possibly like next year doing a dinner about Paris and doing food. So, but if we can make this be successful this year, we're trying to redo the carriage house there because it's on a dirt foundation. We need some work to be able to keep those up. So anything you guys can do to help, I'll let you know more when the meeting again tomorrow. Let you know more about the things you have with them. I'm not sure if sending these out in the kitchen or not, but I know they do know that they need help with setup.
Yeah, you have your meeting coming up, and then the 28th we have a presentation on the museum, and we'll finalize what all we're doing at that point. Do we have to flood the place with water and bring galoshes and all that stuff to make it look authentic? Do we do that? Yeah. I don't know if you saw any of the clips this morning, but all the gondolas are high and dry. The canals are all empty. So I mean, it's going from one to the other. It's just crazy what's happening. All right, so with that, are there any other announcements for the good of the club? Friday. Yes, that's exactly right. And I sent out that letter to everybody, but just as a reminder, the district or the Rotary International President is in Visalia on Friday night, the 17th. Okay, and I think it's at 6 o'clock. So if you're interested, wander on over that direction. I'm kind of committed out on the gala. That's the same night as the gala for Citizen of the Year and all that stuff. So otherwise, it will be there. Any other announcements?
I just had a question on the
Rick?
night in Venice. What's the total guest capacity for that event?
I think it's about 200.
Thank you.
Great. With that, Dave, please come up and provide some education about our foundation.
Yep. Thanks. All right. Well, today I want to talk to you a bit about the Rotary Foundation. I'm the foundation chair for our club this year, and I'm excited to talk about the foundation because understanding the Rotary Foundation is the same thing as understanding Rotary. You can't understand Rotary and what it does and how it does it without understanding the foundation. Now there's a lot to the foundation, and a lot of terms and stuff, and we'll kind of break down how it's set up and how it works. I've given all of you, hopefully, I think all of you have a little handout, sort of the annual report, some numbers from 2019 for the foundation. Some of them you'll look at, if you're not really familiar with the foundation, you'll get a sense of what they mean. Others you might be going, I don't know what that means, but sounds like it's a good thing, so we'll try and explain a little bit kind of what it is and how it works. Any of you remember the transmogrifier from Calvin and Hobbes? Calvin and Hobbes fans? I love Calvin and Hobbes. And Calvin would often get this cardboard box that he labeled the transmogrifier. And as he says up at the top, you step into this chamber, set the appropriate dials, and it turns you into whatever you'd like to be. So the foundation, I'd like you to think of it as a transmogrifier. The foundation transforms money into service. That's what the foundation does. Every dollar you give to the foundation, every dollar that goes into the foundation comes out in the form of doing good in the world. That's hopefully the purpose of any good foundation, and that's certainly true of the Rotary Foundation. So that's at its most basic level what the foundation is. It transforms dollars into service that makes the world a better place. I'm trying to skip one. Very briefly, the history. So you've probably noticed before, or you heard us talk about before, Paul Harris. Paul Harris started Rotary, and if you have a Paul Harris pin or you're listed as Paul Harris on the placemat, Paul Harris represents $1,000 given to the foundation. There's another name that's associated with the foundation that you ought to know, and that's Arch Klump, the guy who started the foundation in 1917 with a whopping $26.50. Of course, that was a lot more money. It was worth a lot more back in 1917. But he had this vision of saying, let's create an endowment for good. That's what he called it, an endowment for good. And so he created it. And since then, I mean, you look at the numbers now, we're talking in the billions of dollars doing good. So Arch Klunk is the guy that started it. And if you ever meet a Rotarian who has a pin or a badge or something next to their name that says Arch Klunk, that means they've given $250,000 or more to Rotary. So that's a big donor right there. So if you ever see that name around, that's what you can associate it with. Someone who has had the means to, and then chosen to, give very generously to the Rotary Foundation. There's a lot more history to it, but I'm not going to get into all of that, partly because I didn't have time to learn it all. So, how does it work? Again, at its most basic level, you put money in and it comes out to do good, but this is how it does it. And by all means, those of you Rotarians who are more familiar with the foundation than I am, you've been doing this longer than I have, feel free to correct me at any point, but I've broken this down in a way that makes sense to my mind based on what I've learned about the foundation. Within the foundation, there are two main funds. There's the annual fund and there's the endowment. And just like you would think, the annual fund is the checking account, right? That's much more liquid. That's where the money's coming in, the money's going out in the form of grants and service and things like that. So that's money in and out. The endowment is an endowment. It's the savings account, and none of the principal is ever spent. Only the interest is used, usually for things like adjusting for inflation or unforeseen circumstances or changes in giving, things like that. It's a rainy day fund, just making sure that the annual fund can continue doing what it needs to do, even if there's a lean year or two. So that's what the endowment is for, and the annual fund is much more liquid. Within the annual fund, you've got the World Fund, and you've got district-designated funds, or the district-designated fund. The World Fund, money goes into it, and money comes out in the form of grants to districts and clubs. But any club or any district in the world can apply for it from that fund. That's why it's called the World Fund. Any Rotarian, any district, anywhere can apply for that money and use it for its projects, both international and local. District-designated fund is exactly what it sounds like. That's set aside for districts. And the way that works is when our clubs in District 5230, that's our district, when we give money to the foundation, some of that money goes to the district-designated fund, which means that when we apply for a grant from our district to do something in our district, we get to pull from that fund. And nobody else gets to apply. Just within our district, we apply for money from that fund. And there's a 3-year turnaround on every dollar that goes into that fund. That money is invested in the annual fund, but it basically goes in and churns around for 3 years, making interest, making money, and then it comes back out. So the money we put in this year is available to us in 2023 for us to do projects and things like that. I think I understand that correctly. So the money goes in, and so the money we're pulling out this year is from 2017. And that's the way that it works. So there's this 3-year turnaround on that money for the annual fund. So that's the annual fund and the endowment, the two main branches, the two main funds of the foundation. There are also foundation programs, and you can give specifically to these. The first one, and probably the most well-known, is Polio Plus, right? This is where I had my Rotary moment, was learning what Rotary is doing to eradicate polio. Simple, profound vision. We're going to get rid of polio. And so there's a whole program to do that is funded by the foundation. So Polio Plus is the main program, or again, probably the most well-known program. But there are also peace fellowships. Rotary International has 6 different peace centers around the world, and I didn't have time to look up where they all are. But Peace Fellowship is a scholarship to someone who wants to pursue graduate studies in peace, conflict resolution, things like that, at one of these peace centers. And these fellowships can fund part or all of someone's education in these areas. And so that's another major program of the foundation. And then tying into that are sort of scholarships in general. And I didn't have time to get into the fine details of this, but districts and clubs can apply for grants, global grants, I'll get into grants in a minute, to provide other kinds of scholarships that are still consistent with Rotary's mission and vision, but aren't necessarily a full-on peace fellowship. So those two are very related, but Polio Plus, peace fellowships, and scholarships related to what Rotary is doing in the world. So you got the two funds, annual and endowment, and you've got these three main programs that the foundation provides money for. Now we get into how we get the money and how we get to use it. The money that we put in and that others put in as well, and that's the grants. There are two kinds of grants, global grants, district grants, and that's exactly what they sound like. A few years back they simplified this. There were a few other kinds of grants, matching grants and some other kinds that I don't even know what they were or how they worked. But a few years ago they simplified it just to these two kinds of grants. Global is an international partnership that is within one of Rotary's 6 areas of focus. And you can look that up online, what those 6 areas of focus are. But a global grant is something that any club can apply for and receive money, but it needs to be done in partnership with another club. Now, Ron was kind enough to educate me and make sure that I knew sometimes there's a misconception that, especially with global grants doing international work in some other country, that always means a U.S. club or whatever club partners with a club in the foreign country and all the money goes to the foreign country and the foreign project. No, it can work both directions. It just depends on what the project is for. So we could partner with a Rotary club in some other country and all the money goes to a project here. It just requires the partnership and an international effort, and it does have to be specifically within one of the 6 areas of focus. So that's global grants in a nutshell. And then district grants, again, is fairly self-explanatory. This is how we get money for buying the books that we donate to schools and to some of the projects that we do, the book that I'm going to sign as I'm the speaker today. We apply for money from the district. And again, that comes from that district designated part of the fund, of the foundation. We get to apply for that, get that back, and use it within our own club, within our own district, to do good right here. And so that's what funds what we do. So that's global grants and district grants. Ways to give. So some of you may not already fully grasp that you already give to the foundation. We've built it into our dues structure, being part of the club, that every member, as part of your dues, gives $100 to the foundation. That's the Paul Harris sustaining club status that we have, right? So already, right off the bat, $100 going straight to the foundation. And by the way, when I say to the foundation, just assume that the default is to the annual fund, that checking account, just kind of in general. So right off the bat, you're already participating in that, and we're proud of that as a club. Another way of doing that same thing, or more, is giving through Rotary Direct, and some of our club members do that, which means that you can go online and have Rotary pull straight out of your bank account on a recurring basis, whatever set amount you want, to go to the foundation, and you get to specify where it goes. Does it just go to the annual fund? Does it go to Polio Plus? Does it go to the endowment? Which part of the foundation does it go to? And you can specify that. By the way, the same is true of any money you donate, whether it's through the club dues or whatever. If you want to specify at any time that it go to a certain program or a certain fund within the foundation, just talk to us. Talk to Michael, talk to Ron, and we can do the paperwork to make sure that your money is going to the designated place you want it to go. So Paul Harris, Rotary Direct. Oh, and by the way, Paul Harris, when you celebrate and you buy a square for $20, that's Paul Harris as well. That's the foundation. That's where that money goes to also. So that's all going to the same place. Paul Harris, Rotary Direct, benefactor. This is a really, really easy one. And it's not really going to cost you anything, because when you give to it, you're dead. I mean, forgive me for being blunt, but that's what it is. There's a form that you can fill out, really simple, and all you do is include that in your estate or in your will wherever you keep that file in your home or your safe deposit box, you just slip that in there. And it says that I designate $1,000 or more to the foundation upon my death. It's a great way to give, and a significant way that the foundation receives money from those who've passed on. That way, it's not just something they do when they're alive, but they leave a legacy of giving to Rotary and doing good in the world through that. Other gifts are also options, and I don't know the intricacies of how the paperwork works, but you can give property, you can use stocks, you can use various kinds of assets and transform them into donations to the foundation. That requires people who know more about that kind of stuff than I do, but it's an option to keep in mind. I mean, you ever find yourself, whether you have these kinds of resources right now or not, you may find yourself having something like that in the future. Someone in your family passes on and leaves you some money or something like that. Keep this kind of thing in mind, because alternative forms of giving are a significant way of turning that into good in the world as well. The last thing I want to highlight is donor-advised funds. This is a really interesting feature of the Rotary Foundation. Again, let's say some of you may have the means to do this kind of thing right now, some of you may not, but if you ever do, circumstances change in your favor, you find yourself with a bit of money, and you say, I want giving to be a part of my individual legacy, part of my family legacy. I want to raise my kids, showing them what giving looks like. A donor-advised fund is a great way to do that through the foundation. The way it works, and lots of foundations do this kind of thing, but the way it works is, let's say you've got a charity or a cause that you're passionate about. It could be anything. And you say, okay, I've got, let's say $25,000. I'm going to put that in the Rotary Foundation under a donor-advised fund. So that 25 grand is set aside as your donor-advised fund. You get to advise the Rotary Foundation. You don't get to direct them and sort of be the dictator of it, but you get to advise them on where that money should be given, to whom it should be given, how often it should be given, to whatever charities you choose. And basically the foundation does it. Unless you're asking something really inconsistent or crazy. It's a great way to put some of your money to work as a personal foundation, a family foundation, but it's through the Rotary Foundation, so you're not doing the taxes on it. You're not doing all that paperwork. You just sort of set it up with the foundation, and then your family, your community can use that as your own smaller legacy of giving, facilitated by the Rotary Foundation. Does that make sense? Definitely something to consider if you ever find yourself having the means to do so. I don't know if there are minimums. I didn't have time to look up anything like that, but a great way to make giving a part of your personal and family legacy through the foundation. It makes it really easy to do that. Questions? I may not have the answers, but what questions do you have? Yeah, please.
That first month, 2017 was the 100th anniversary of the foundation. And in honor of that, and again, at that international conference, almost everything cost $46.50, which is a real bargain. It's just symbolic.
Yes.
What that small amount started out and where it's at now is unbelievable.
Yeah. When you see the numbers on the sheet, it's just amazing. Thanks, Mom. Other questions? Good. That means either I was thorough or you just were bored to tears and weren't even listening. So I'll take either one. That's okay. Thank you for letting me share, and thank you for being part of Rotary and the Foundation and what it does.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
All right, so you didn't know it. If you didn't know it, you're already part of the foundation. We're a 100% Paul Harris Sustaining Club, which means in our district, every member of our club gives at least $100 a year. And so that's a designation that our club carries within the district as a Paul Harris Sustaining Club. All right, anything else that we go to the club? We got it? Everybody knows the board meeting on Thursday, the build on Saturday, right? And then that'll get us to next Tuesday, and I'll remind you again what's happening after that. I don't want to overload you. That's only two things you have to worry about now. All right, so let's give you another idea. The saying, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. You ever wonder where that came from? Okay, horses' gums recede with age, leading to longer teeth. The common way to inspect a horse's worth was to check its mouth, hence the phrase, right? Look a horse in the mouth. But receiving a horse as a gift and immediately inspecting its value was considered offensive, right? Much like inquiring about the worth of a present today. It's rude. So you don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, right? That's where that one came from. All right, there you go. Another little piece of education.